Everyone knows about vampires, and most of us just assume that they're fictional characters. But what if they weren't? What if our modern idea of vampires was actually inspired by real people, and that some of them are still walking among us today? That's never a thought that came to Pastor Dave Bryan, at least not until he was face to face with one.
Again, in juvenile hall, I went in one night, and there was a 14-year-old young lady that was not in the cells in the cell block, but was in a plexiglass cage in the front of the juvenile hall in the check-in area. And I was just checking in because we had a juvenile hall outreach. And I said, "You have a young girl in a cage?" They said, "Yep." And I said, "Why would you do that?" And they said, "Well, would you like to ask her?" And I just glibly said, "Yeah." And they laughed, and they kind of raised their eyebrows, and they asked their commanding officer, their overseer. They said, "A preacher wants to be let into the cage. You okay with that?" He said, "Well, keep an eye on him, but yeah, you can let him in." So they pushed me in the cage and closed the door behind me, and there was just a little table that just like to set a cup on or something. And this young lady is in a chair on one side. I sat down on the other side, and I was just trying to be fatherly. And I said, uh, "Hello, sweetheart. Why do they have you in this cage?" And she said, "First of all, I'm not your sweetheart." And she said, "Ask them why I'm in the cage." I said, "Well, let's start with why you're in juvenile hall." She said, I tried to kill my mother with a baseball bat. And I just I wasn't used to that kind of uh, intense, gross evil. And I said, "Well, why did you hate her?" And I was expecting a story. She abused me and, it was terrible. And she pimped me out or whatever, beat me. She said, "Well, I didn't hate her." And I said, I don't understand that. You tried to murder her with a baseball bat? She said, "Yeah, it was a Judas ritual and but it didn't work." And I said, I'm not even sure what a Judas ritual is." And I remember she looked at me and she said, You don't know nothing about Satanism, do you?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I'm a Satanist, and a Judas ritual is when you betray someone close to you. And it's a very powerful ritual. I tried it with my mom because we everybody in the coven knew that she was trying to get out of the coven and was being unfaithful to Lucifer. And so she was fair game. And I thought, I'm going to do a Judas ritual, get her powers, which demonically, if you betray somebody, the demons that are in them go right into you. So anyway, that's what she was trying to do. She said I was weakest person in the coven. My mother was one of the strongest, and her father was the leader of the covenant, which I didn't find out till later who that was. But anyway, so it just blew my mind that she had tried to murder her mother and that her mother survived. And now that she was being tried for murder because she had thrown the body of her mother in the river, and somehow miraculously she had survived, and that's how eventually they found out who had tried to kill her. So anyway, that was such an intense story to me. And remember, I was in the do good and meet urgent needs part of my life. I just thought, what in the world could cause a 14-year-old girl to act like that? And then just when I thought it was way out of my pay grade for the day, I said to her, I said, well, honey, if I can ever do anything for you, let me know." And she said, "I told you I'm not your sweetheart. I'm not your honey." And I said, "I'm really sorry. I'm they're terms of endearment, and I'm a pastor. I just try to be kind." She said, "Well, don't bother. I don't need your kindness." I said, "Oh, okay. Uh, but if I can ever do anything to help you, I want you to know that I would." She said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So she leaned in to where the she was out of the view of the camera that was watching that little plexiglass cage. And she said really low, she said, "I need blood." And it totally took me by surprise because I had no idea what she was talking about. And so I said, well, maybe you misunderstood. I'm a pastor, not a doctor. And she said, you're not a doctor and I'm not anemic. And I thought, okay, I'm out of my pay grade here. I'm not going to ask a young lady why she needs blood. It's not, that's not my thing to do. So I just said, well, if you're not anemic, I don't know what the deal is, but you should probably ask a doctor. And I said, if you're not anemic, why do you need blood? She said, I'm addicted. And I said, to drugs? She said, duh. And I said, well, I can't get you drugs. She said, I don't want drugs. I want blood. And I said, okay, but what's the connection? She said, I'm addicted to blood. And suddenly I thought, oh my gosh, this takes it to a whole new level. So I'm staring at her just a few inches away from her. And I said, what, what would you do with the blood? She said, drink it, obviously. I'd never heard anything like that. I grew up, I didn't even know there were actual people who did that kind of stuff.
Right. This is the story of like Dracula, vampires. Everybody thinks is like fantasy. It's fake. Well, but it comes from a real place. And you were confronted with like a real live vampire, which I've never heard another person, but I know these people are out there. That 14-year-old girl in a cage in juvenile hall was in a cage because she was a vampire.
Exactly. And that's what she said. She said, why do you think they have me in this cage? I need blood and I know where to get it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to get out of this cage before she leaps across the table and tries to, put her fangs in my jugular. So I began to frantically knock on the door saying, I'm done here. And they were laughing, holding their side. They pulled me out. And I said, how dare you put me in a cage with a vampire? And they said, I think you asked us if we would let you in. And they said, we were watching you. We wouldn't let her jump you. But I said, she's in there because she's been harvesting blood from juvenile hall kids. They said, yep. And we don't know where else to put her. So we feed her and keep her in here. So anyway, that paid my meter. I just I was done for the day. And I went home and I just canceled my time. I was going to go in and talk to the kids, which we did on Monday nights every week. And I just thought, I am just done here. Went home. I told my wife and I said, you won't believe what happened to me. And I told her and she said, oh, poor thing. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to be okay. She said, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the 14-year-old girl. And I thought, wait a minute, I was the victim here. I was the bait that got stuck into the trap. And I never once imagined that she was thinking about the girl who threatened me. But she said, imagine what kind of a life she's lived to be addicted to blood at the age of 14 and to murder her mother, not because she hated her or had any other reason to, but just to get more demonic power.